So this is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to share. I'm using a throwaway because I don't want this connected to my main account, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe, just maybe, someone out there can learn from my colossal mistake. It all started about a year ago. I had been married to my spouse, Jenna, for 7 years at that point. We met through mutual friends, and from the moment we got together, it felt like one of those fairy tale romances. Jenna was everything I wanted in a partner: smart, funny, kind, and had this way of lighting up a room just by walking into it. I never thought I'd be the person writing a story like this. Our marriage had its ups and downs like any other. Work stress, family issues, but nothing major. Also, I thought, looking back, maybe I was blind to the cracks that were already forming. Maybe I wanted to believe that everything was okay, even when it wasn't. It started innocently enough, or at least it seemed that way. Jenna had a new job at a marketing firm and became really close with one of the co-workers, Ben. At first, I didn't think much of it. We both had friends of the opposite sex, and I trusted her. She'd tell me about her work day, mentioning Ben every now and then. He sounded like a cool guy, laid back, funny, a little nerdy, but not the type I'd ever feel threatened by. Then things started to change. Jenna began working late more often, claiming they had tight deadlines or after-hours meetings. Sometimes she'd come home exhausted, but she always seemed to have an extra spark when talking about work, or more specifically, when talking about Ben. There was this light in her eyes, and I began to feel a knot of doubt forming in my gut. I ignored it. I didn't want to be that insecure partner who accused their spouse of cheating just because they had a close friend, but the signs kept piling up. Jenna started texting him at odd hours, always with the excuse that it was work-related. When I'd ask about it, she'd laugh off or get defensive. "Don't be paranoid, it's just Ben," she'd say. "You know how work is." One night, after a particularly late work meeting, Jenna came home and I jokingly said, "What are you and Ben plotting?" World domination. She laughed it off, but there was something in her eyes, something that made me uncomfortable. I brushed it off as me overthinking things again. But as the months went by, the doubt kept gnawing at me. I decided to confront Jenna, not with accusations, but with concerns. I told her that I felt like we were drifting apart, that she seemed distant, and I asked if there was anything we needed to work on in our marriage. She assured me that everything was fine, that work was just stressful, and that I had nothing to worry about. I wanted to believe her, so I did. But then one night I overheard her on the phone with someone, and her voice was different, soft almost. Intimate. My heart dropped. I just knew. After she went to bed, I checked her phone, something I'd never done before. And there it was. The proof. Texts between her and Ben, not just work-related, but personal, flirty, and then explicit. I felt like my entire world had just collapsed. I confronted Jenna the next morning. She denied it at first, but when I showed her the texts, she broke down and admitted everything. She'd been having an affair with Ben for months. I couldn't believe it. The person I loved, the person I trusted, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I was devastated, but I didn't want to lose her. I suggested counseling, trying to salvage what was left of our marriage. Jenna agreed, and for a while it seemed like we were making progress. But the trust was gone. Every time she was late, every time her phone buzzed, I was thrown back into that pit of suspicion. That's when the dark thoughts started creeping in. I wanted to hurt Jenna the way she'd hurt me. I wanted her to feel the same pain, the same betrayal. I joked to my best friend about getting revenge, maybe even cheating on her, just to see how she'd react. He laughed it off, telling me not to stoop to her level, but the thought kept lingering in my mind. I didn't seriously plan on going through with it, at least not at first. Then I met Sarah, a coworker of mine. She was sweet, smart, and had gone through a bad breakup recently, so we bonded over our shared experiences of heartbreak. At first, it was purely platonic, but as we spent more time together, the lines started to blur. I found myself drawn to her in ways I hadn't felt since before Jenna's betrayal. It felt wrong, but at the same time, it felt like I deserved to have something for myself after everything Jenna had put me through. One night, after a few too many drinks, Sarah kissed me, and I kissed her back. I told myself it was just a kiss, that it didn't mean anything. But it wasn't just a kiss, it escalated from there, and before I knew it, I was having an affair of my own. Here's the thing, at first it felt good. Like I was getting back some sense of control, like I was finally the one in charge. But that feeling didn't last. The guilt crept in and it hit me hard. I had become the very thing I despised. I was no better than Jenna. I ended things with Sarah, but by then the damage was done. The guilt was eating me alive and I couldn't keep it from Jenna anymore. I confessed everything, expecting her to lash out, to leave me, to do something. But instead, she just stared at me, her face pale, her eyes hollow. I deserve this, she said quietly. I deserve all of it. And that's when it hit me, the real cost of revenge. I thought getting even would make me feel better, would heal the wounds she caused. But all it did was leave both of us broken. We're separated now, trying to figure out where to go from here. Part of me wishes I'd never found out about her affair, that we could have just continued on like everything was fine. But that's not the reality we live in. Cheating, revenge, it's all just a cycle of pain. So yeah, don't joke about revenge. It's not worth it. Thanks for sticking around till the end of this story. If you found it as thought-provoking as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Remember, life's choices can lead to unexpected consequences, so think twice before taking the path of revenge. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.